So, are you recording the meeting, right?
Yeah, we are recording.
Okay. So, let's start with a brief introduction. So, hi everyone. Let me give a brief introduction about myself. My name is Lakshit Madan, and I started with blockchain in 2018. I first started with doing research, and I have even worked as an Ethereum blockchain developer. And currently at Mayor, we are building an edtech startup into blockchain and Web 3.0. And currently, we are focusing on providing students and blockchain enthusiasts with great quality content. So let's get started. And today, firstly, we'll discuss about the evolution of web. We'll discuss about Web 1.0, Web 2.0, and Web 3.0, and then we'll come on to the blockchain part, and we'll discuss what are the opportunities into blockchain and what is blockchain, how it works, and everything. So let's get started. Also, I wanted to ask, is the audience comfortable with English, or should we talk in Hindi and English both?
Audience would be comfortable in like only English only because we have from varied variety and
Sure. No issue.
all are not comfortable with it.
Actually, I'm not able to screen share. Can you allow me for that?
Yeah, sure. Could you now?
Just a second. Yeah, I'm able to.
Okay, sure.
Okay, so is the screen visible?
Yeah, the screen is visible.
Okay, so these are the contents which we'll be talking about today. And now coming to before jumping on to what is Web 3.0, let's discuss the evolution of web. So the first era, which was the Web 1.0, and this was the era where we saw basic HTML websites. We saw static websites and read only web pages, and the web pages where we can just scroll through the content and read it. And see some basic information such as fax, email, phone numbers, and etc. Now coming to the Web 2.0. So Web 2.0 was that era where we saw interactive websites, the era of web applications, where we saw applications and websites with rich user interface and user experience, and the websites or the web apps which were built using new tech stacks such as JavaScript, Stack, etc. And this was the era where we also saw social networking websites. We saw media sharing websites and technology upgrades. So Web 2.0 was this era. Now coming to the Web 3.0. So Web 3.0 is the decentralized era and the era which has already begun now. So in Web 1.0 and 2.0, we have seen issues such as hacking. Our data is not even safe, and they are governed by some central authorities. Uh, Plus, the transparency is also not there. So to overcome the issues which we faced in Web 1.0 and 2.0, Web 3.0 is targeting to overcome those issues. And Web 3.0 is a decentralized internet. Means we are the only one who are responsible for our data here. And uh, uh, and it is a totally decentralized network. Means there is no central authority governing the internet. And Web 3.0 actually came into existence when Mark Zuckerberg announced rebranding Facebook to Meta. So after the name Metaverse. So Web 3.0 is that era where we see, apart from blockchain based applications, we'll see new technologies such as augmented reality, virtual reality, artificial intelligence, IoT based websites. So Web 3.0 is this era. And we'll be also seeing websites or web apps with rich user experience, and they'll be totally deployed on a decentralized internet. So Web 3.0 is this era. Now coming to the comparison. So as we see in Web 1.0, we saw basic web pages, HTML websites. In Web 2.0, we saw content, we saw social media websites, high quality and camera video applications, global internet access, high speed communication. So, but in Web 3.0, it's an era of decentralized applications. The applications which will not be governed by a central authority, means our data will not be governed by a central authority. या कोई it will not be kept on a centralized database. And it is an era of NFTs. Web 3.0, we'll see metaverse, we'll see websites having virtual reality, augmented reality, and artificial intelligence, interoperability, etc. So these are the characteristics of Web 3.0. Digital identities are the identities which we are seeing with the help of NFTs. In this Web 3.0, we will be seeing digital identities, avatars, etc. Micropayments such as transactions through cryptocurrencies. Trust, because the whole network will be governed on the blockchain. So transparency will be there. Complete connectivity, that is the interoperability between the whole network. So these are the characteristics of which Web 3.0 essentially offers. Now coming to the backbone of Web 3.0, which is blockchain. So blockchain is totally the backbone of backbone of Web 3.0, because Web 3.0 actually came out of blockchain. When people got to know about decentralized applications, NFTs, cryptocurrencies, and the other applications of blockchain, then Web 3.0 came. So let's see what is actually blockchain. So we have seen traditional databases. We have seen databases of SQL databases, MongoDB databases, and we have seen the data which is stored in these databases in the form of tables. So, but when it comes to blockchain, blockchain is kind of a database, but it is a shared immutable database, means it is totally shared, distributed across the world. And the data here is not stored in the form of tables. The data here is stored in the form of blocks. And the blocks connected to the chain, each block contains a data, it contains a hash value and a previous hash value. So that's how a blockchain is formed, which is the chain of the blocks, which we say in the layman languages, or a shared immutable database. Now coming to the properties of blockchain technology, and let's see what properties actually blockchain offers apart from traditional databases. So it offers transparency. So as we see, the transactions are recorded on the blockchain in the form of blocks. So all these blocks or all these transactions which happens on this whole network, or whichever the data is added to the network, it is totally visible to everyone. Means transparency is maintained, like anyone can view anything on this network except your data, because the data is stored in an encrypted format. Immutable. So the records or the data or the transaction which is stored on the blockchain, it is immutable, means it cannot be changed and it cannot be reversed. Third is distributed ledger. So blockchain is kind of a ledger. What we say a ledger is kind of a table, but this whole network is distributed, means it is distributed across the world through with the help of nodes, computers, and all these nodes and computers are actually connected to each other, and that's how a distributed network is formed. Fourth, coming to the security. So what happens, like we'll see the security part in the next slide. I'll explain here. So this is our small working of blockchain. So as we see, and as I said, like blockchain is basically a chain of blocks, and that's how all these blocks are connected to each other. So the first block in the blockchain is known as Genesis block, and then comes the block 2, 3, and so on. So as I said, like each block contains a data, and data is stored in an encrypted format using cryptographic hashing algorithms. So as we can see here, the previous hash is 000. The current hash value is 0234, which is the same of the previous hash of block 2. So as we can see, all these hash values are connected to each other, and that's how a chain is formed. So in the previous slide, talking about the security. So suppose some hacker or a bad entity tries to like tamper with this hash value of block 3, and for a chance he successfully succeeds. So what will happen is, and as we can see, the hash values are connected to each other and a chain is formed. So if the hash value of block 3 is changed, the hash value of block 2 and Genesis block will automatically change. So that's how it is almost next to impossible to hack the blockchain, and that's how the whole network is secured. But blockchain is still vulnerable to some attacks like DDoS attacks, 51% attacks. So it is still vulnerable to these attacks. Now coming to the architecture. So this is an architecture of a centralized centralized architecture in your left hand side. So so in the centralized architecture was the architecture of what we can see is of Web 1.0 and 2.0, and this is a distributed decentralized architecture. So the dots which we are seeing here are the nodes or the computers. So and that's how a network is formed. So the nodes and computers are connected to each other, and these are sitting across the world, and they are connected, and that's how distributed decentralized network is formed. According to the definition, bookish definition, it is blockchain is an open financial ledger or record in which each transaction is authenticated and authorized, and it is designed in a decentralized ways by connecting a network of millions of computers. So the dots which we are seeing here is they are the computers or the nodes which are sitting, and that's how a network is being formed, and that's how a blockchain network is formed. So coming to the key characteristics of the blockchain, cryptography like plays a major role into blockchain. As I guess maybe you have heard about asymptomatic cryptography, the role of public and private keys. So what happens is when if someone from you uses cryptocurrency, crypto wallets, you may be aware of public and private keys. So what happens is there are two types of keys, public and private. So suppose there are two entities, A and B, and A is sending some data to B. So what and they both have public and private keys. So public keys will be used to send those data, and suppose B receives the data from A and it is decrypted. So with the help of their private key, they'll be able to decrypt that data. So that's how the major role of cryptography or the asymptomatic cryptography. And certain cryptographic hashing algorithms such as SHA-1, Keccak-256, these algorithms are also used for encrypting the data. Immutability, we saw that the records, once a record is stored on the blockchain, it cannot be changed, it cannot be reversed. Provenance. So whenever a transaction or a data is stored on the blockchain, we are able to track the origin of that particular transaction. Transparency also, as the data is stored on the ledger, and it is openly available to everyone. So that's how that's how transparency is maintained. And now coming to how does a transaction gets into blockchain. So suppose currently I am sitting and I am transacting some Bitcoin, and I requested this transaction through my computer, and a block so the what will happen is a block representing that transaction will be created on the Bitcoin blockchain, right? And that particular block will be sent to all the nodes or the computers which are in the network, and or the ones we call miners. So what happened will nodes and miners sitting in the network will receive this that this particular block has to be added. So all the nodes and miners will validate the block. They'll see the transaction is legitimate or not, and and all the nodes will also receive they'll receive a pattern or something we call nonce. So the first node which will solve the nonce with the help of their computation power will receive a reward, and that's how miner earn rewards. And suppose a node A was there in the network, and node A received a reward, and that's how proof of work consensus mechanism works. So after receiving the reward, block will be successfully added to the chain, and block will be successfully added to the chain, and it will be updated across the whole network, and it will also be updated on the block explorer, because there are block explorers for Ethereum. There is Etherscan. So that's and through those block explorers we can see the transactions. So and that's how a transaction is added to the blockchain, and that's how a data is also added to the blockchain. So it is so in this this is a real life example of a transaction of a blockchain, and I took this example from Etherscan. It is a blockchain explorer of Ethereum network. You can type any hash value or the address of or your wallet address, and you can check all the transactions made by you on this Etherscan. It is basically a block explorer only. So this is a transaction hash of this particular transaction, the status, the block representing the transactions. So and the timestamp, from the origin part from which wallet address this transaction was executed to which this transaction was executed to a smart contract, and value containing in the transaction fees is the fee given to the miner for the validating the block, and this is the gas limit. So in Ethereum and mostly in proof of work consensus mechanism, what happens is there is a concept of gas fees. So as we have seen the concept of transaction fees. So it is similar. So gas fee is almost a similar concept, but what happens is gas fees is almost negligible, and currently sometimes gas fee is high because of high network congestion. So gas fee is kind of a transaction fees, and the fees which is required for executing the transaction, and the fees which is given to the miner. So this is the gas used by the transaction, the gas price. It is showing 1 GUI. So GUI is a unit of ether, and the nonce, the pattern which the particular node or the miner solved. So this is a real life example of a transaction. Now coming to two different types of blockchain technology. So there are two different blockchain technologies. One is public, and the other one is private. So public blockchain is a blockchain where anyone can participate. For example, Bitcoin and Ethereum, they both are public networks. Anyone can participate in the network. And uh, so now coming to the private. So private blockchains are the blockchains where participants are already pre-selected. And mostly private blockchains are used for enterprise solutions. And public blockchain cryptocurrency is required. In private, it is not, and the decentralization rate in public blockchain is very high as compared to private. The throughput is low because in public blockchain, as anyone can participate, so there is high network congestion because there are a lot of participants, and due to that, the throughput is very less. In private, the participants are pre-selected; they are very less, so the throughput is very high. And same goes for the energy consumption. So as we have seen, like in Bitcoin blockchain only, like while adding a Bitcoin or to mint a Bitcoin, the energy consumption is very high. So it is just because a lot of participants are already participated in the network, and network congestion is very high. So that is the reason the energy consumption is very high, and in private the energy consumption is very low. So that was all about public and private blockchain. Now coming to Ethereum. So Ethereum is one of the biggest layer one public blockchain after Bitcoin. And so the major difference between Bitcoin and Ethereum is they both are cryptocurrencies, but Ethereum offers some functionalities, such as it allows us to write smart contracts over its own blockchain. It allows us to build decentralized applications over its blockchain. So, and these characteristics Bitcoin doesn't offer. So that is the we say the major difference between Ethereum and Bitcoin. And Ethereum is best known for its cryptocurrency Ether. So Ethereum network has its own native cryptocurrencies Ether. Like if you want to interact with the Ethereum blockchain, you need Ether as a cryptocurrency. So while writing smart contracts as well, we need Ethereum as its native token to interact with the smart contracts, because initially we are interacting with Ethereum blockchain only. Now coming to the components of Ethereum. So Ethereum has different components such as smart contracts. So smart contracts are the line of codes or the business logic we code over any blockchain, and we execute that code. So that code can interact with the blockchain, and so that's why we write the smart contracts, or we can say they are the backend part of any decentralized application. And Ethereum cryptocurrency, which is a native cryptocurrency, dApps, EVM is the Ethereum virtual machine. The whole Ethereum architecture is based on the Ethereum virtual machine, and EVM is the backbone of the whole Ethereum blockchain. Last is a consensus mechanism. So Ethereum uses proof of work consensus mechanism. So consensus basically means agreement. So and as we see in this architecture, that while nodes were validating the transactions, and there was not only one node, there were millions of nodes who were validating this transaction. So what happens is, after successfully validating the transactions, they come to a consensus or an agreement that this particular node or a miner will be mining the block. So that's how consensus mechanism work, and this is a proof of work consensus mechanism works. And there are different consensus mechanisms, such as proof of stake is there, and different blockchains are coming with their own consensus mechanism. So now coming to the use cases of blockchain technology. So DeFi is, or the decentralized finance, is the biggest use case of the blockchain, and it is a shift from centralized finance systems, where we saw banking system, we saw insurance. So decentralized finance promotes the peer-to-peer finance enabled by decentralized technology such as blockchain. So DeFi contains a lot of applications, NFTs, cryptos. They are all part of DeFi. Now coming to crypto. So crypto are also known as fungible tokens. So we call them fungible because fungible means many. And crypto so see, like there is not only one Bitcoin. There are 21 million Bitcoin, and those Bitcoins can be traded with each other. So that is why cryptos are also called fungible tokens. So cryptocurrencies are a kind of a digital asset which are stored on the blockchain, and they are distributed across large number of computers. This the crypto the decentralized architecture of cryptocurrencies are not governed by a central authority. So we have seen other fiat currencies like INR, USD. These are governed by some central authorities. But when it comes to cryptocurrencies, they are not regulated or controlled by a central authority. And you can also trade cryptocurrencies on centralized, decentralized exchanges like CoinDesk, Uniswap, if you want to buy and sell cryptocurrencies. And now coming to NFTs. So NFTs are the non-fungible tokens. They are also kind of a digital asset, but as compared to cryptocurrencies, NFTs, like cryptos are fungible tokens and NFTs are non-fungible tokens. So the major difference is NFT means unique. So non-fungible tokens, it actually means unique because there can't be 21 million NFTs. There will be only one NFT of a unique entity. So that's why they are called non-fungible tokens, and they cannot be traded with each other because they can't be one Bitcoin. There are 21 million Bitcoin. So that is the major difference between fungible and non-fungible tokens. So currently NFTs overcomes the issues of ownership, because NFTs are stored in the form like they are already being stored on the blockchain, and they are secure. And NFT can be anything. It can be NFT. It can be a video. It can be a text. It can be an image, because at the end you are just storing a digital asset. Now coming to medical and healthcare. So blockchain has a very wide use case in medical and healthcare, because it currently in medical and healthcare solutions, we have seen the data management of the patient's data is very poor. The supply chain tracking of medical goods is very poor, and these can be overcome if we use blockchain based healthcare solutions, because we can easily manage the data and track the origin of the transactions on blockchain easily. So it will be easier to use enterprise blockchain solutions for medical and healthcare. Now coming to supply chain. So in earlier slide, we also spoke about the supply chain. So the existing global supply chain solutions are poorly tracked. They are inefficient. We currently even don't know, like the good which is coming to us, is it legitimate or not, or where it is coming from, because they are being poorly tracked. So there are existing solutions, but they are still governed by central authorities. So if we bring supply chain to the blockchain, we will, and as we know, like we are able to we are able to uh, 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 track the origin of the data on the blockchain. So it will be easy if we if we store the supply chain, if we store the supply chain goods on the blockchain, it will be easier to track us and to make the whole supply chain solution more efficient. So that's why supply chain they have a major solution. Sorry, they have a major they have a major issue currently, so that's how blockchain will overcome them. And so in supply, if blockchain is implemented into supply chain, it will be efficient if we use enterprise blockchain level solutions instead of private networks, because with the help of enterprise level solutions, the existing supply chain can become more efficient. Now coming to voting. So in a country like India, we have seen that voting manipulation is a very big issue. So because sometimes if we are voting, there are still in some villages there are still a chit system used for voting, and currently also we are voting, we even don't know like our vote is being manipulated or not. So this is a very big issue in a country like India. So suppose if imagine like votes are being stored on the blockchain in the form of a transactions, and we know that we can't even change those transactions or we can't update them. So this will overcome voting manipulation. And apart from voting in political voting, so voting can also be used in different companies as well, because we have seen in companies also voting or governance is there. So these solutions can also be used in enterprises as well. Now coming to the opportunities. So the global blockchain market is increasing, increasing day by day, and the technology adoption is also increasing across various countries. And as we can see in the bar graph here, like it is expected that by 2025 the market will be 40 trillion. So, and as we know, like the market is increasing, the job opportunities will automatically increase. So there are like various job opportunities in the blockchain field. So first one is blockchain developer, and so there are two types of blockchain developers. One is blockchain software developer, and one is blockchain core developer. So blockchain software developer is the one who will build the decentralized applications, and blockchain core developer will be the one who will build the core protocols of the blockchain or the whole network. And so that is the work of blockchain developer, and it's in a very demand, because currently the demand is very high and supply is very less, because the technology is very new. And next, coming to the blockchain architect. So blockchain architect is the one who designs the before building a decentralized application, we have to design the whole application, how it will work, which blockchain will be best suitable for that application. So that is the work of the blockchain architect. And now coming to the blockchain legal consultants. So the work of while building cryptocurrency tokens or a whole blockchain network, some legal consultancies are also required. So there comes the role of a blockchain legal consultant, and community manager and content writers are there. So these two roles, which I have personally seen, currently, before web 3.0 and blockchain came, people were not even people were not even interested to become a community manager or a content writer, because they thought these jobs are very less paid. But currently, when web 3.0 and blockchain came, so these two roles, basically community manager and content writer, they surged rapidly, because there is a lot of demand of community managers and blockchain content writers, because this skill is essential, because you should know how to handle the community, and you should know how to write the content. Plus you should even know the basics of blockchain, you should understand the whole technology very well. So that is the reason they are being paid almost equal to a blockchain developer. So now last is the blockchain designers. So blockchain designers can be anything, like a blockchain designer is the one who can design the whole network, or they can be blockchain front end designers, because as we have seen, it is a web 3.0 era. So application should also have a rich user experience. So that is why blockchain front end designers are required, and they should also know how to integrate smart contracts, with the front end libraries like React and Angular. So the demand is very, very high. And so guys, that was it. And now I guess we can have some Q&A sessions, and you can also ask the dots.
Yep. There are some questions in the chat box. I think so. They have been posted when the session was going on.
Let me see what those web 1 and web 2. So web 1 and web 2.0 is the era which I was talking about. So web 1.0 is the era when internet when internet came, and we saw websites, the static websites that where the and in those websites we just able to see the contact information and just read the contents. So that was that era, web 1. And web 2.0 is the era where we saw websites like Amazon, Netflix. We saw user interaction, content. So web 2.0 was that era, the era with rich user experience. So I was talking about that. How smart contracts help in. Okay, so web 3.0, like there are a lot of applications of web 3.0. NFTs are there. Metaverse projects are coming up. So blockchain is playing a major role because with the help of smart contracts actually like they overcome the role of a middleman. Right, you can automate almost everything with the help of smart contracts. And they are and as I discussed, like they are building logics, the logic which we write to interact with the blockchain. So smart contracts, how can I tell you, like taking an example of an NFT marketplace, right? So the whole backend of the NFT marketplace will be built will be built with the help of a smart contract only. So smart contract is just like the backend which we create the backend which we create in decentralized applications, and the backend similar to which we create using different tech stacks like MERN stack and MEAN stack. So smart contracts plays a like major role in the decentralized applications because they are the one who are connecting the application with the blockchain. Is hash can be assumed or as opening password to next block light act as a passway? Yes. Actually, I didn't get this question. Can you please ask again, or like you can mute yourself and ask this question again? Sir, can you tell us something about mining? Like how can we cover this? Okay. So for mining, actually, you need a large setup. Like it is a very, very expensive setup because, as I said, the competition power is like a high competition power is required. So the setup for mining is around 10 to 12 lakhs. I don't know. I guess it's even more. So because you require proper competition with a high end GPU and everything. So that's how you can get into mining. So because actually you won't be doing mining, your computer will be doing the mining. So that's why high computation power computer is required for that. Explain bandwidth, power consumed, block height, sir. Okay, so block height is similar to the like in the presentation which we saw, block 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, the genesis block, the block 2, the block 3. So that is the block height. The power consumed is the power is like when we were talking about mining. So whenever a transaction is being added to the chain, so the so your computer automatically requires power to solve the nonce. So that's how the computation power, your obviously your computer is using electricity, so that's how the power is consumed. And bandwidth is almost similar because the internet bandwidth which is required to being connected to the network. So in Transcan, these are the terms I want. TRC20 transaction. Okay, so TRC20 means see, like in the Ethereum, there are different types of standards. Like ERC20 standards are there for making Ethereum-based cryptocurrencies, and ERC 721 standards are there for making NFTs. So TRC-20 is almost the similar standard or the protocol for the Tron for making a Tron blockchain based cryptocurrency. About the hardware, what to buy, how to start mining. Okay. So see, like I'm not aware like what kind of hardware is required because I didn't get it that much into mining. So I guess the hardware with the high computer graphics with the high end GPU is required for mining, and a lot of power the power consumption is a lot. So a good electricity supply is also demanded for that. ERC-20 strong specific tone smart just like ERC-22. Yeah, okay. That there is a way that wallets can be hacked. See, like yeah, as I said, like blockchain is still vulnerable. Like there are some, it is still not I said, like it is almost secured. Like it is almost next to impossible to hack the blockchain, but still it is vulnerable to 51% attack. It is vulnerable to DDoS attack. Plus, it depends upon different blockchains because Ethereum blockchain is built on the EVM network. Solana blockchain is uses some another consensus mechanism. So it depends from blockchain to blockchain as well. Like we have seen many hacking issues in Solana blockchain as well. So it depends from blockchain to blockchain. Can you discuss about NFTs in detail? Okay. So NFT is basically like you remember playing the cards which we used to play in the childhood, the slam attacks, the WWE cards, and in those WWE cards, each card has its own value. Like there are two cards. Suppose the card of John Cena and Undertaker. So they both will be carrying some different values, and they are unique. And so that is the same case with the NFTs. So currently, and they specify the ownership because they are being stored on the blockchain. So that is the whole purpose of NFTs, and there are a wide range of applications into NFTs. So NFTs are being used in fashion, sports, music events, tickets. There are plenty of applications for NFTs. Origin where it came, but we can't know the next transaction. Yeah, we can't actually know the next transaction. So it is true. So, sir, can you explain about scams in crypto world ongoing? See, like there are a lot of cryptocurrencies. There are see, it's not a big deal to make a cryptocurrency. You can even if you know how to code smart contracts, you can still make your own cryptocurrency. It's not a big deal. So and there are many crypto tokens which don't have any utility. So we have seen tokens like Ethereum, we have seen tokens like Matic. So all these tokens carry a utility. Like Ethereum is a token of Ethereum blockchain. Matic is the native token of the Matic blockchain. So all these tokens carry a utility. There are shit coins, like we say, like Dogecoin is there, Shiba Inu is there. So these coins don't carry utility, and that's why that's why they are the major issue behind the scams which are going in the crypto world. So like before buying a token or before investing in a token, you should actually go through the white paper of that whole project, like what is the utility of that token. So it is that's why it is said to, like, not to see like where the token is actually going on and on which price it is being sold. So that's why it is required to study the whole project and what is actually going behind, what are the like future cases of that project. So and if you do that, so like you won't get trapped in the scams which are happening in the crypto world. So I'm having other questions now, like also one more thing, guys, if you have any doubts and if you're not if you don't know like what to ask, you can join our Discord server. I'll share the link here, and uh, you can join our Discord server and you can ask questions there. A lot of resources to learn blockchain, and different languages are required to become a blockchain developer or a community manager or a content writer. The resources are already available on our Discord server, so you can join a server and you can let us know if you have any questions required. If I buy and sell an NFT, can I know the next transaction only? Can I know the origin? So you can actually know the original owner or the wallet address of that particular of the particular owner. You can't know what will happen in the next transaction because we can't predict in the next transaction. I guess we can wrap the session now because I guess they'll not like, there are not any more questions here. So
So yeah, we can.
guys, I wanted to ask this thing like we are planning a boot camp and a free of cost actually boot camp to if someone is interested to being trained as a blockchain developer or any other role into blockchain. So we are happy to train you guys and offer free boot camps for this. So if anyone is interested, you can let us know on our Discord or also you can let us know here like if you are interested here. Okay, so if you are interested, please join our Discord server because maybe by next month or by May, we'll be planning a boot camp in collaboration with different Indian universities. So, uh, uh, like you can take part. It will be free of cost, and will help you learn will help you train into blockchain from the scratch to even giving your hands-on experience. So I guess that was pretty much it, and if we can wrap the session now.
Yeah. So thanks a lot, Lakshit, for coming to our institute and like providing this valuable information for all of our students.
Thank you so much.
And thanks, Mayor, for coming as
Yes,
an
yes.
yeah
Thank you so much.
start. So thanks a lot.
Also, like we share the server, our Discord server link because I guess if anyone gets a doubt, they can ask us by joining our server.
Yep, sure. We will post it in the WhatsApp groups.
Okay, then. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.